My parents didn't even wait for sunrise. The morning they kicked me out, the sky was still the deep bruised blue that comes before dawn, quiet, cold, unsure of itself. I stood on the front porch with a single duffel bag and a sweatshirt that didn't match the November air. My breath came out in small white puffs, and the grass glittered with frost the way things do when the world is trying to look pretty while breaking you. Behind me, the screen door creaked open. My mother's voice was flat, almost bored. "You're 18 now, Elena. It's time you learned to make it on your own." My father didn't add anything. He never did. He just stood beside her, arms crossed, treating my future like a problem he was finally glad to toss away. My mother nudged the door closed with her palm and said the sentence I've replayed for years. "You were never going to amount to much anyway." The door clicked shut. No hug. No goodbye. No hesitation. Just the cold in me. My name is Elena Brookshire. I'm 25 years old, and the day my parents kicked me out with one bag was the same day they decided I was useless. They had no idea they were building the exact woman they'd come crawling back to. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts. It means more than you know. I walked for hours that day. Not because I had anywhere to go, but because I didn't want to stand still long enough to feel what had actually happened. Cars sped by, sending gusts of cold air against my legs. A delivery truck honked, the driver giving me a sympathetic glance before disappearing around the bend. The world felt too big for someone with nothing to her name. By noon, my fingers were numb. By evening, my legs shook each time I took a step. I spent the night sitting behind a laundromat, curled against the warmth of the wall vent, listening to dryers spin like giant mechanical heartbeats. The air smelled like detergent and burnt cotton, and for a moment I imagined the scent was safety. It wasn't. The next morning I found a flyer stapled to a telephone pole. Room for rent cheap. No pets. No drama. Call May. I didn't have much left to lose. When May opened the door to her tiny bungalow on Reading Street, she looked me up and down with the eyes of someone who had once been broken too and recognized the shape. "You look cold," she said softly. I nodded. "Come in." That was the first time in my life kindness didn't come with a condition. May was in her 50s, wore oversized sweaters that swallowed her frame, and made her tea so strong it stained the mugs. She didn't ask why I needed the room. She didn't ask about my parents. She didn't dig into wounds she knew she couldn't heal. He just said, "Bathroom's down the hall. Heat's flaky but it works. Rent is due every Friday." For months I worked every job I could find. Dishwasher, barista, cashier, night shift cleaner in an office building that smelled like old printer ink and carpet glue. I learned the language of exhaustion. How it sits behind your eyes. How it makes your bones feel like borrowed furniture. How survival becomes a rhythm instead of a choice. Every paycheck went to rent, bus fare, and cheap noodles. Not one call came from home. Not one text. Not one, "How are you?" Nothing. The silence became its own kind of parent. Strict, distant, predictable. One night, after scrubbing burnt cheese off an industrial oven for 6 straight hours, I walked past a small community college bulletin board. A bright orange flyer caught my eye. Intro to Programming. Free night course. Beginner's welcome. I don't know what made me take the tab with the sign-up link. Maybe anger. Maybe loneliness. Maybe hope disguised as curiosity. I took the course. And then another. And then another. For the first time, my brain lit up like a room someone finally turned the lights on inside. I'd stay up late practicing code on a battered laptop May found at a yard sale. The keys stuck and the charger overheated, but it was the first thing that felt truly mine. May would peek in sometimes and say, "You're onto something, kid." I didn't believe her. Not yet. Not until the community college professor pulled me aside after class one evening. "You have talent," he said simply. "You're better than you think." Those words, so small, so direct, hit harder than anything my parents had ever said. I kept going. Kept studying. Kept building. By 21 I had a portfolio. By 23 I had my first tech job. By 24 I had savings. A place of my own. The future. And then at 25, I built something that changed everything. A budgeting and planning app designed for people like me. People who came from nothing. People learning life backwards. People who didn't have a safety net. So they built one from scratch. The app blew up. A viral post. A flood of downloads. Investors calling. Emails from journalists. And suddenly the girl who slept behind a laundromat had built something that didn't just sustain her, It empowered thousands. The money followed. More than I'd imagined. More than I could have thought existed when I stood on that porch at 18 with numb fingers and the sound of a closing door behind me. And then, after 7 years of silence, my phone buzzed. A name I hadn't seen since the day they kicked me out flashed across the screen. I stared at it the way someone stares at a ghost in daylight. I didn't answer. Not then. But later that night, as rain tapped softly on my windows, a voicemail came through. Her voice cracked in ways I had never heard before. Elena, honey, please call us. We need to talk. Your father isn't doing well financially, and we need help. I froze. Not because of the request, but because of the next words. We heard what you've become. Not who. What. The next day when I came home from a meeting with my small team, they were standing at my door. My parents. Older. Wearier. Eyes full of a desperation they never imagined they'd feel toward me. My father's voice broke first. Elena, we didn't know you'd become successful. My mother swallowed hard. We're sorry. We made a mistake. We need help. The woman who once called me useless now looked at me, as if I were the only lifeline she had left. I didn't speak yet. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally understood. I wasn't the broken one they abandoned. I was the proof that they had been wrong. All along. My parents stood on my doorstep the way people stand at a hospital window, pressing their palms to the glass, hoping someone inside will save them. They looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but in the way pride shrinks when truth finally finds it. Rain clung to their jackets. My mother's mascara had smudged into faint gray shadows beneath her eyes. My father kept tugging at his sleeves the way he used to whenever bills arrived in the mail. But now, instead of scolding me for existing, he was silently pleading for a chance to be let in. Elena, he said again, voice cracking around my name. Can we talk? A word they never used when I needed it. I stepped aside, not inviting them in, just giving them space to enter if they chose. They hesitated, then crossed the threshold. Water dripped from their coats onto the hardwood floor. The room smelled faintly of the jasmine candle I'd lit earlier. A warm, comforting scent that didn't belong to them. My mother wrapped her arms around herself. You have a beautiful home, she murmured. She didn't say congratulations. Didn't say we're proud of you. Didn't ask how I built it. Just, you have something we need. I nodded once. Sit. They took the couch. I stayed standing, leaning against the island counter. A position that gave me both distance and strength. My father cleared his throat. We're in trouble, he started. Your mother and I, we made some bad investments. Lost more than we expected. Mom wiped her eyes. We thought things would turn around, but they didn't. We've been struggling. The word felt foreign coming from her. Like a language she'd never learned until now. I folded my arms. And you came to me. My father nodded. You're successful. Everyone's been talking about your app. Your achievements. Your money. Not you. Not who you've become. Just money. A familiar ache rose inside me. Not sharp. Not fresh. Just an old bruise being pressed again. I took a slow breath. Why now? I asked quietly. Why after 7 years of silence? My mother's eyes filled again. We were wrong, she whispered. We shouldn't have kicked you out. We thought tough love would make you stronger. I let out a soft, humorless breath. No, I said. You thought getting rid of me would make your lives easier. Mom flinched as if the truth were a sudden gust of cold wind. A memory drifted in. The morning I left, I'd stood at the end of our driveway hoping, just once, they'd change their minds. Hoping my mother would run after me. Hoping my father would at least look out the window. He didn't. He didn't. The driveway stayed empty behind me. Back in my living room, my father leaned forward, elbows on his knees. We didn't know how hard it was for you, he said. You didn't ask, I replied. Silence stretched between us, heavy with all the years they were never there. Finally, my mother whispered, Please, Elena. We need help. I studied them. Their tired faces. Their trembling hands. The worry carved into their foreheads like permanent creases. For the first time, I didn't see the parents who abandoned me. I saw two people who had outrun their mistakes. Until their mistakes finally caught up. Do you want my help? I asked. Or my forgiveness? My mother blinked, taken aback. What do you mean? You came here for money, I said. But you're leaving here with truth. They shifted uncomfortably. I continued. You didn't raise me. Life raised me. May raised me. Cold nights and long shifts and coding till sunrise raised me. The world made me strong. Not you. My father's shoulders sagged. And still, I added quietly, I don't hate you. My mother covered her mouth as a soft sob escaped. But I don't owe you either. Her sob deepened into a shaky cry. Elena, we're your parents. I stepped closer. You're the people who brought me into the world. Parenting is a choice you stopped making when I turned 18. Dad buried his face in his hands. I softened, but only slightly. Tell me the truth, I said. If I hadn't become successful, would you be here? The silence that followed was the closest thing to honesty they had given me in years. No, my father whispered. We wouldn't. And that was the moment something inside me finally settled. The girl they'd abandoned was gone. The woman standing in front of them had built her own foundation. Brick by heavy brick. In places they never bothered to look. I took a breath, feeling the weight of my next choice. I will help you, I said. Both their heads shot up. But not with money. Confusion washed across their faces. My success is not your rescue plan, I continued. But I can help you get back on your feet the same way I did. Work, discipline, humility. My mother swallowed. We're too old to start over. No, I said. You're too proud. My father's eyes filled for the first time since I'd known him. What do we do? He asked. First, I said, you stop pretending I'm the burden you left behind. My mother nodded slowly. And second, I added, you learn to earn your life again. The way I had to. The three of us sat in that quiet, fragile space. Not healed, not whole, but finally facing each other without the lies. My mother whispered, can we see you again? Not because we need something. Just because you're our daughter. I hesitated, letting the vulnerability breathe. Yes, I said softly. But you meet me where I am. Not where you left me. My father nodded with tears he didn't bother to hide. My mother reached out. Not grabbing. Not claiming. Just offering. I didn't take her hand. Not yet. But I didn't walk away either. When they finally left, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean. Washed, renewed. I closed the door gently. Leaned my forehead against it. And let out a long breath. That felt like 7 years leaving my body. If you've lived anything like this, tell your story and don't forget to subscribe. Then I stepped back. Looked around the home I built with my own hands. And whispered to myself. Sometimes strength is quiet.